The Sisters Grimm podcast is intended for mature audiences only. Please listen at your own discretion.
Tiptoe through the window.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
The most notorious serial killer in the nation.
The Night Stalker.
The Boston Strangler.
The Son of Sam. The infamous Zodiac Killer.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Get away from her, you bitch!
Welcome to the Sisters Grimm podcast.
How'd you do this? Show you.
Welcome to the Sisters Grimm podcast. Sitting here with me is myself, Holly.
What?
And sitting next to me is...
That's what you had to think about before you hit the record button?
Oh no, I decided just to...
Just go for it.
Go for it, and it was bad.
It's Holly and Morgan, you guys.
Yeah,
and we're back for John Wayne Gacy Part 2.
Yep, and the craziest thing, and a little tangentially related to John Wayne Gacy, is, so today on my lunch break I decided to go to this thrift store, and it was a new thrift store, and it was a little thrift store, and it was one of those places where you have to show your ID.
What?
Like when you have a debit card.
Oh, okay.
So I had to show my ID, and I was like, oh, I don't have my ID because I have a ticket, and they took my ID. Oh. So I showed them the ticket, and then she's like, let me show this to my manager, and we'll see if this works. And the manager came out, and she's like, this'll work, but you are due in court in an hour. And I was like...
Whoa. For the ticket?
Yeah, because they fucked up... well, I don't know if I can talk about it. Well, I can't, actually. Because the police officer fucked up insurance stuff. He said the number... Oh. He said I had the wrong insurance, which was false.
Right.
So, left there... very fast. Like, the lady was so fucking slow. I knew, and I got so much shit, Morgan. I got like 10,000 bucks. It was so bad. And I knew that it would be faster if I just grabbed everything and, like, ran to my car, opposed to it taking 30 years for her to put things into bags.
Yeah.
And so I ran to my car and literally hauled ass to the Richard Daley Center. Looked, like, went to the room I was supposed to. Literally got to the courtroom with maybe
5 minutes to kill?
Barely, 3 minutes to spare. So
this happened today.
This happened today within the span of an hour. It was 1:11, and I found out I had to be downtown in the Loop, and I was up in the northern suburbs.
Wait, what street... What courthouse did you go to?
I had to go to the Daley Plaza. It's on Washington.
Mm-hmm. That's where I had to go.
Yeah, and there's horrible construction on 90 right now, and my car doesn't have air conditioning, and it's 100 degrees right now in Chicago. So...
It's fucking hot.
Yeah, so I'm hauling ass from the north suburbs to the Loop. That's a long
drive.
It would have honestly taken so much less time had there been... Because on the way back, it took no time at all, because there wasn't the construction. So I find a parking thing, and I'm like, I can just run from here. And I literally got my ticket and pulled in, and there was a spot directly in front of me. I went,
good for you,
parked right there, and ran to the John Daley building. Went through the metal detectors, went up on the 4th floor, found out I wasn't supposed to be on the 4th floor, went down the elevator, got to the right floor. And then I found the room I was supposed to be in, and I went in there, and I was just sitting, and I was like, fuck. Because, everywhere it said no cell phones.
And you had your phone?
And I had my phone. Well, they just said you couldn't use it, but that was the only form of Dad's insurance that I had. And so and the judge was super nice, and so I had a feeling, I'm like, he'll probably be really cool about it. So there were literally 4 of us, and there were only 3 officers there. And I was like, that's so weird, because every other time I've had a traffic court situation, there's always been a million people there. So he he calls me and 3 other guys up, and he just starts giving us our IDs back, and he's like, sometimes the law works in your favor, and it really pays to be on time. He's like, none of the officers that gave you your tickets
are here?
Yeah, worried to be here on time. So I'm throwing out all of Yeah, so I got it completely thrown out.
Was it the time when you got pulled over when you were coming to pick me up at work?
Yep,
and that guy took your fucking ID? Fuck him.
Yeah, no, that was the really asshole guy that, like, was that I thought we were, like, joking around, and he, like, asked if there was, like, anything illegal in my car, and I was like, who knows? Yeah. Don't joke around with cops.
None of them ever go to court. That's the thing.
That's, like, why it sucked. Like, and also, and then I talked to Dad. Well, first I called Dad just, like, really upset just because, like, I didn't know what to do. And he's like, I don't know what you want me to do about this. And I'm like, there is nothing you can do. I'm just really fucking mad right now. And he's like, okay, I get it. He's like, just let me know how things go. So me and those 3 other dudes literally, like, linked arms, and we're, like, singing 4-part harmony,
chewing bubble gum as you're walking out,
like, oh my god,
setting off all of the, like, alarms on your way out.
Oh my god, I'd never been so happy before in my life, except that I had to go back to work, and and then I got back to work, and I'm like, it was just kind of like I took a lunch break, but, like, I had to go to court in the middle of it. It's just
so
like
random.
Isn't that crazy though?
So what happens if you never mind. We don't need to get into
there would have been a warrant.
Tickets.
There would have been a warrant.
Ooh,
some sort of warrant. And so if I had gotten pulled over again,
is there a way to look up if you have a warrant out for your arrest?
Yeah. There's a way to
look
up
that later.
Dude, you can
have a lot of parking tickets.
Morgan, you can actually don't have any, like, criminal things.
No. Just parking
You
tickets.
can, like, look up people's background checks very easily. I'll show you how to do it later.
Cool.
So this is part 2 of John Wayne Gacy.
Juan Gacy.
I hadn't told Morgan that story yet.
Yeah, what the hell?
Had to tell.
That's intense.
And I was like, well, because the John Daly, it was in the same vicinity that I really want to get my hands on those 22 boxes of evidence and court documents of John Wayne Gacy. I really want to fucking do that. Back to John Wayne Gacy.
Meanwhile, I got a manicure pedicure, and
Morgan looks pretty great.
Took a nap with Maria.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was like all happy
Tuesday a little bit.
It was all happy days after that. So again, back to Gacy. We ended last episode with him coming back to Chicago.
Yes.
Because he had been on parole, which had let him come back. When he came back, he started living with his mom at his old house.
Right.
His childhood home. But eventually he moved to the infamous house on Summerdale Avenue.
Yes, with his wife.
Yes, he married Carol, Hoff.
Right.
And they moved into the Summerdale Avenue house. Gacy worked as, like, a cook. He actually worked at
KFC.
Well, yeah. Well, no, but that was in Waterloo.
Oh, right.
This was in Chicago. This is when he first got back. He worked little odd jobs as a cook. I've seen some very stupid pictures of him wearing a chef hat. But he also worked for this bar that was Barry, his friend, remember from last episode? It was Barry's dad's restaurant.
Oh.
And one time Barry went there, and he saw Gacy there with a young boy who ended up being one of his victims.
Oh.
And Gacy, like, went over to Barry's apartment, like, after he had gotten back from Chicago, and punched Barry in the face and said, "This is from me and your dad."
Whoa, bitch.
And, like, Barry had no idea, like, he's like, "Why are you so fucking loyal to my dad now?"
Yeah.
And Gacy, like, didn't, I don't know. He should have been like, "'Cause I'm crazy now, Barry. I'm crazy now." So, yeah, he married Carol, and then he started the PDM Contractors.
Which stands for Painting, Decorating, and Maintenance.
Stands for Pedophile Dumb Motherfucker.
Yeah, it does.
So, you know,
So they would do a lot of, like, just, like, more maintenance things than anything, but what is kind of freaky is that, like, one of the things that they did was concrete work.
Yeah.
Laying concrete.
Oh, yeah, there's a really creepy concrete story I have to tell you.
Oh.
Don't get excited.
I am.
But yeah, this was, you know, he was a upstanding citizen.
Or so everyone thought. All of his neighbors thought that he was very gregarious.
Yeah, very smart. You know, he 8213. You can go there. I was there last Friday.
8213, the address.
Morgan and I wanted to go together, and I would have gone. It would have been my
busy.
third time. And
it's fine.
Yeah. I've been there 2 times now. The second time was a lot more scary because I got lost.
Ooh.
But I got a better idea of because there's obviously a new house there, and I had always thought that his house got torn down because ew.
Because holy fuck.
But it was a mixture of that, and it was just completely, they had to tear like the whole fucking house down because it was full of dead bodies. So, let's get to
his first
kill. Oh, also, I had mentioned before, I apologize for interrupting you. I had mentioned that he may have had a sexual relationship with a man, and he did.
Yeah.
And that was confirmed.
Right. Okay.
So, first murder.
So, the first kill was on January 3rd of 1972. It was a young boy whose name was Timothy McCoy. He was 16 years old. So he was traveling from Michigan to Chicago to sightsee, which is a weird thing to do by yourself as a 16-year-old.
As a 16-year-old,
in any time period, I feel like.
In the 70s, though, it was very common. I mean, what everyone will find out, and what me and Morgan both know, and what most people know who have researched him, is a lot of these cases were just runaways. Like, so even that young.
He picked up a lot of people from bus stations.
Oh, yeah, he fucking loved bus and train stations.
Yeah, that's where he picked up,
Timothy.
He picked him up from a Greyhound bus terminal. John offered him a place to stay for the night, and he said, I'll drive you back to the train station in the morning. So that would be weird enough if what happens after didn't happen. Like, that's weird enough for a 30-something-year-old man to invite a 16-year-old boy to stay the night.
He would have been in his 20s. Well, no, yeah, he would have been 30. He was in his 30s.
So we don't know a ton of what happened that night that he picked him up. But the next morning, John said that he woke up. And this is what John said in his confession.
Yeah.
He said that he woke up and he saw the boy standing in his doorway holding a large kitchen knife.
Yeah.
And so John instantly started freaking out, and apparently, like, the kid accidentally cut him when John was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And so John obviously overpowered him because he's a big dude and this is a 16-year-old kid. I know some 16-year-old kids can be big, but, like, John's a big boy. So he pushed him really hard and, like, kicked him really hard in the stomach. And then he stabbed him to death with a knife that he had. Timothy was literally just being a really good house guest, or just a nice boy. Maybe he actually had feelings for John, because he was literally cooking breakfast. When John walked out into his kitchen, he saw that he had been making bacon and eggs.
That was so fucking nice of Timothy and John.
Like a boy who makes breakfast, yes.
That is the worst way to handle a situation. Oh, you made me breakfast? Let me murder you.
How about I kill you with the knife that you just used to cut up this bacon? I don't know. So Timothy wasn't identified until 6 years after John's initial arrest in 1980. So his body wasn't identified for like 6 years. And it finally was by dental records, because he had a very unique, like, kind of... The characteristics in his teeth, like all of the work that had been done on his teeth, were that of only 2 or 3% of the population that is similar, and so that's how they basically knew who it was.
Yeah, dental records were literally basically all they had to identify these boys.
Yeah. And he was the first one to be buried in John's crawl space, which we know will be a pattern.
Yeah, Timothy wasn't alone for a while.
Timothy's body wasn't... I mean, John didn't get caught until whenever, so his body was horribly decayed because he had been in there for 8 years when they finally found it. So, of course, it was hard to find him, but John marks this as, like, when he realized that killing was giving him, like, a mind-numbing orgasm.
Yeah,
and he said that that's when I realized that death was the ultimate thrill.
See, yeah. So, here's the thing. Last episode, I felt really bad for John. You know what? Now, I fucking am glad he's dead.
Yeah.
You know...
I mean, reading all of this stuff has been
also a lot. Also, kind of going back to what Morgan said, in that people didn't find out about Timothy until 6 years later. No one knew about any of these, I mean, people knew about it, but none of it was connected. It's not like Bundy, or it's not like
where they knew
Dahmer.
that he killed all of the people that he
this
for
girl
sure
went
killed.
missing.
Yeah.
Who the fuck did it? This girl went missing. They're like, we have a serial killer. They literally had nothing to go on until the last victim,
Right.
which is Robert Peist. And reading his story is literally what made me be like, I fucking hate John Wayne Gacy so much. Oh, fun fact. So actually, I had some
fun facts for friends.
Fun facts about John Wayne Gacy.
Ted Gacy.
About Ted Gacy.
You can't stop saying Ted.
No, that was the first time I fucked up in this series. I said it I always said John Wayne Gacy last episode. I know. This was the only time I called him Ted, and it was an accident. So, let's see. Some trivia I had. John Wayne Gacy and Hitler both had dogs named Prince. Hitler's was Prince. But I concluded from, I deducted from reasoning that probably meant Prince. So when I found out about one of my victims, because he was very close, I wanted to know what the book it was from, and it was from John Wayne Gacy Defending a Monster, which was written by Amarante, who was Gacy's who was his lawyer for the defense, and then Terry Sullivan was the prosecutor. And I really wanted to know this information, right now, right today. This was last Saturday. And I was like, I guess I could buy it on my Kindle. But I was like, let me check. So I called the one and only Barnes & Noble I could think of, which was in Skokie, Illinois. And I talked to a lovely woman there whose name I won't say. But I may not have even... Maybe I'll beep out... No, people know I work by Skokie. Anywho,
You literally said where I worked exactly the other day.
Well, yeah, but, that's you. This is this woman blowing up her spot and with what I'm about to say. So I called and asked if they had that book in, and she said, let me check. And she's like, no, actually, a lot of his books are going a lot lately. Maybe they're teaching. I'm like, people are so into true crime. And she's like, they really are. And she's like, and actually, one of my best friend's sons was killed by John Wayne Gacy. I wanted to be respectful, and I did not ask who.
Whoa, I would have been like, who? She's clearly just giving away information.
I know, but she didn't say, and I wasn't gonna pry. I was just like, oh my god, that's so horrible. She's like, yeah. She says that her friend says it never gets easier.
Oh my god.
And I was like, it's so crazy because of how close we are, the impact that
it's had on our community.
That it really has. And
there's a million people with a million stories about him.
And I always knew it was Chicago, but before looking into it, I didn't realize that literally all of this took place in the neighborhood we currently live in. Beep boop beep doo. Okay, so on December 22nd, the news spread that John Wayne Gacy had murdered 33 people, but on that day, Washington announced that it would cost $4 million to airlift the bodies from the Jonestown victims in Guyana back to America so that they could be buried. And on November 18th, 1977, was the day of the Jonestown Massacre, and was also the same day that John Wayne Gacy killed one of his victims.
Wow.
So Jonestown and John Wayne Gacy are very...
have a connection.
So Morgan sort of touched on this before with Timothy, because he was the first victim, and he was the first victim who, and we'll get into it more when we get into after he was arrested.
Yeah, which will be the next episode.
Yeah, and like how he said, this was not in chronological order, so this is hard information to find.
Correct.
Sometimes. So there's still, I think, it's honestly so hard to find. There's either
still
6
at least,
or 7 unidentified victims.
Victims still.
They've been recently, 2 victims just got found, 2 of our people, because Morgan and I are going to do a back and forth type of thing in this episode.
Evens and odds type of deal.
Yep. Both of one of our people, it was a recent found.
As of the last, 5 years or so.
Yes. So, body in between... Timothy McCoy, who was Morgan's first kill, and John Bukovich, who is the first person I'm going to talk about. There was a body number 28 who was unidentified, and he was buried under a barbecue pit. Because towards...
The amount of different space that he used to bury people is astounding.
The really fucked up part about that is that John would sometimes work very late at night, and his, like, neighbors noticed, obviously, and they would just be like, hey, we noticed you were up, and he would always apologize for the noise. One night, he was digging a deep hole, and his friend came over and was jokingly said, like, he's like, hey, John, digging a hole? Yeah. He's like, what, are you digging a grave? And he just, like, looked at him smiling, and he's like, why would you say something so horrible like that? Mm-hmm. And then the next week, he threw a Western-themed party and had he threw a lot of theme parties.
Okay.
And had a brand new barbecue pit.
Huh.
And...
yeah, because he laid concrete down, right?
Well, no. Well, yeah, he laid concrete down over the... It was like what had literally happened in
American Horror Story. Yeah, where they put the gazebo up over the dead body.
Yeah. Yep.
Stuff.
Okay,
all right, so the second victim.
Known victim that we have information about.
Chronologically.
Is John Butkovich. He was 17, and he was last seen on August 1st, 1975, and he is cataloged as body number 2. Mm-hmm. That is also where things get fucking confusing as shit when you try to figure out who. And it's so he was from Lombard, Illinois, and he was working at a hardware store when he met Gacy, because Gacy, like we said, did a lot of maintenance, and he did a lot of maintenance on hardware stores and stores in general. John was a very hard worker. He did whatever you asked him. His parents were Marco and Teresa, and they were from Yugoslavia. Like many of his victims, Butkovich needed money. And, you know, because he was getting older, he wanted to make his own money. He didn't want, like, you know, he didn't want allowance from his parents. Like, he was 17 years old. He wanted to, like, hang out with girls and have his own car.
For sure.
A lot. And so he was, like, saving up for a car. And so when he was offered a job for CPD and found out that the boys were making $5 an hour, he was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, because that's a lot for that time.
That is so much. Plus, his new boss was super cool because Gacy would let them hang out at his house.
Smoke weed.
And get drunk.
Mm-hmm. And probably, like, didn't he, like, show them porn and stuff?
Yes. He would show them stag films, were what they were called. That's what they called porno back in the day. They called them stag films.
Sexist.
It is a little bit. And plus, you know what? I never saw a horse in one of them. Boomps. Anyway, so, Butkovich's relationship. Let's talk about Mr. Hand. Now is not the time to talk about Mr. Hands. So, Butkovich's relationship with Gacy began to strain when Gacy started... He was really, really bad at paying his employees. And this pissed off Butkovich because obviously he was saving up money to buy a car. And so he went over one night to Gacy's to confront Gacy about... Or, no, he went over to his friends to Gacy's to confront him. And Gacy freaked out so bad that they were just like, fuck, you know what? Forget it. We're good. We good. Also, John kills like 5 Johns.
And like 8 Williams.
And like 1,000 Timothys.
Yeah, there's a couple Timothys,
I mean,
too.
They were all the same age, and so those were like the popular names at the time.
Names, yeah.
But the most fucked up thing is
lots
that
of Williams.
John Gacy, that is, probably didn't even know. Like, he didn't even know some of their names.
He didn't care.
And he didn't fucking care.
It actually probably was better for him not to know their names.
Ugh. I hate him. So anyways, Butkovich dropped his friends off, but he never made it home that night.
That's like the tune of most of these stories.
Mm-hmm. It's always...
Because there's a lot... Excuse me. There's a lot that don't have a ton of information, except for just like, they were last seen doing this, and then they were never heard from again.
That's what I found too, and then I kept like trying to dig farther to see like what... But honestly, like Gacy was just so manipulative, and once you hear... Because the Robert Peist, I should have looked up how to pronounce it, but his is what we have the most information on because it was the last and it was like investigated the most thoroughly.
And he was the only one who had like family. Yeah,
and so there are details that Gacy gave about that, which will kind of let you know like how he was just able to... He just was charming. Mm-hmm. He was like those people that scam you out of money. And then leave afterwards, you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Right. No, I don't get scammed.
Yeah. Well, you never...
Just kidding, actually. I got scammed today at the nail salon.
Fuck you. See? You silly girl. Well, no, that wasn't your fault. She started scrubbing your legs. You didn't realize that wasn't part of your package.
She was like, oh, this is extra. And I was like,
no, that's fucking bullshit, and you should have called her out.
I just didn't. I was relaxed.
But yeah, no, there is a lot. Most of these like stories end, and that was the last time they were seen. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we're also from the future,
right?
But anyhoozle, another reason that Butkovich had been tired for working for Gacy was because they were mostly just working on his house, and Gacy had a detached garage that he had built next to a shed to kind of renovate the garage, kind of make himself a man cave. Mm-hmm. Of sorts to escape from his wife Carol, who he considered to be the hen of the roost, mm-hmm. like the house was hers. And so one of the renovations included a weird thing that I'd never heard of before, but I've also, my experience with construction is very little. He put down 2 layers of concrete. And the man laying the concrete joked with him, saying that it would be the hell of a place to hide a body. And these
happens to him.
That does. They're like, hey,
or so they say.
Yeah, and that's because he just seems like you make those jokes with the people who are the least likely to do it, and then they do, and then they are.
Yeah.
No one is not a suspect. Everyone's a suspect.
So
that was built before Butkovich went missing.
Yeah.
Gacy found Butkovich that night, lured him to his house with the promise that he would give him his money. Mm-hmm. So, like, he clearly was able to, like, apologize for being a fucking psychopath. Like, that was his main thing. Mm-hmm. Like, he was very Mr. Jekyll, or Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
And he was, like, really good at getting people... Like, if someone freaked out on me like that and then said sorry, I'd be like, no, thank you, bye. But he just somehow was able to make them calm down.
They were also younger boys. Younger, people.
Yeah, that's true. They are, like, all boys, half my age and from the 70s. So, with Butkovich, he performed the infamous handcuff trick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, while Butkovich's hands were... handcuffed behind his back, Gacy strangled him to death and later admitted that at one point he sat on Butkovich's chest, which sounds like the fucking worst.
Ugh, yeah, that does not sound fun. He was a big man.
He's so disgusting looking. He looks like I say this about a lot of people, but he looks like a drippy, melty candle. The Butkovich family was incredibly close, and they immediately called the police, knowing that their son wouldn't go somewhere without telling them first, but the police wrote it off as a runaway and didn't investigate, despite the fact that the Butkoviches knew their son and their brother had been with Gacy that day. They called the police station every single day for 2 years, asking what the status of their son's case were, and eventually the police just started ignoring them.
Fuck them.
Yeah. Because back in that day... it
wasn't easy to find someone.
Well, no, if a kid went missing, they're like, he's a runaway. He doesn't want to be at home anymore. Duh. Yeah. Like,
and without a body,
that doesn't happen today. Obviously.
They give up hope really fast.
Well, yeah, because and so after Gacy's arrest, investigators brought him to his house to show them where he had buried some of his victims. So he took the police into his garage, took a can of spray paint, made a big X on the ground and said, dig there. And that's where they found John's body.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So he made that fucking... Even though Butkovich was the only person buried there, he had... You don't put down a double... I mean, I never even heard of that. A double layer
Well, it's just like, why would you do that so much for the second one, but the first one you're just keeping in your crawl space?
Yeah, like
you should move the first person's body... to there and then do that, or wait until you have a bunch. I don't know. I feel like it was preemptive.
I think maybe, well,
but also these were the ones that, like, there were years in between these kills.
But there were also,
but then, like, after this point, pretty much they're all kind of like a couple months apart.
Yeah, and then sometimes you'll realize, you'll be like, oh, did he have a cooling down period? But those are the unidentified victims. Mm-hmm. So Morgan is gonna take the reins.
Well, so at this point, around like 1976 is when John and Carol divorced.
Actually, they got in a really big fight in October of 1975, and she asked for a divorce, and he agreed to the request by mutual consent. But because it was the 70s and there was the no-fault or there wasn't the no-fault divorce yet, someone had to have done something.
Yeah.
And so, just so that they could get divorced, they decreed upon false grounds of Gacy's infidelity with women, which was
a lie.
Yeah, which was a lie.
I mean, he was definitely not being faithful, but not with women.
Yeah, and so, so now Gacy had the whole house to himself to do whatever he wanted, and that's all bad shit.
And that's what's crazy, is that 2 of the kills happened while his wife was there.
Well, I read that, like, she would...
Also, if you guys hear thunder, it is storming up a fucking bitch right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. But Carol would get really mad because, like, kids would just walk into, like, her kitchen and, like, grab a beer out of the fridge, and she's like, "Aren't you 14?"
Right. So, on April 6th, 1976, a little under a year after his second kill, which is exactly 1 month after John's divorce from Carol, he abducted an 18-year-old boy named Darren Sampson, who, by the way, was, like, such, like, a 70s dreamboat. Like, he was really cute.
I think it may be Daryl, but honestly...
you're right, it is Daryl, sorry.
No, but it's okay because in a lot of these, like, people have different names.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
And he was buried under John's dining room floor.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew. Ooh, I knew that somebody was buried in, like, the house. I didn't realize.
They're buried all throughout.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that all my dudes were crawl space.
Yeah.
And
some
river
of mine
boys.
were different areas.
That's...
Yeah, you had most of the river boys.
So, that's all you got on
Dare.
there. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
He was body number 29. That's what I have on Daryl.
Okay.
Because, yeah. So anyways, we get to Randall Reffitt. He was 15. While Randall was walking home from Senn High School in the Edgewater neighborhood in Chicago, Gacy pulled up next to him and convinced Randall to get in the car. Randall was killed by Gacy shoving a cloth down his throat and made the boy suffocate, and he was buried in the crawl space. And then later that day...
Yeah, so later on that day, the same day, a 14-year-old boy named Samuel Stapleton was walking home again alone from his sister's house. He and Randall's bodies were buried together in the same grave in the crawl space.
That's the most grossest thing, is that he had, like, mass graves.
Right.
Ugh. So the next victim was Michael Bonin. He was 17. He was last seen on June 3rd of 1976. He lived in Wrigleyville, and he just dropped out of high school, but was thinking of moving closer to his uncle, and he was going to start school in either Waukegan or Gurnee.
Yeah.
He was on his way to the train to go visit his uncle in Waukegan when he was kidnapped by Gacy, or most likely just lured into his car. Michael's uncle, Conrad, was waiting for him in Waukegan at the train station, and when Michael never showed up, Conrad immediately sprung into action. So much so, he drove all the way up to his cottage in Wisconsin to see if Michael had gone there.
Yeah.
And no one was ever able to find him. His family contacted the police, but again, he was written off as a runaway.
Yeah.
And Michael's body was found in the crawl space.
Yep. So next was William Carroll. He was killed on June 13th, and he was buried under John's kitchen and laundry room. William's family knew something was wrong because he didn't come home for his brother's birthday. William's family also didn't notify the police because they thought that he possibly may have lied about being 18 because he was only 16 at the time, and they thought maybe he had run away to join the army illegally. He was last seen in Uptown, which is where I live.
Same here. So the next victim was John Hackinson. He was 16, and all we know is that he went missing in 1976, and that's when John killed him, because for 40 years, Jimmy Hackinson's body was uncovered from Gacy's crawl space, but was identified until literally last year because police started using newer DNA testing for Gacy's unknown victims that was unavailable for them at the time. James had been living in Minnesota at the time, but was visiting Chicago, and after years of wondering what had happened to James, his brother supplied police with DNA, and they found out that it had been James.
Yeah.
They don't really know how he got met up with Gacy or what
just
happened.
Traveling again.
Yeah, but Yeah,
At least the family got to know.
Yeah. Then they were finally, and I read that it wasn't good closure, but they had closure. Yeah. I mean, it sucks, and it's bittersweet. You finally know what happened to your family member, but your worst, assumptions are correct.
So next was Rick Johnston. Rick, who was 17 at the time of his death, was buried with James's body.
Oh.
This is when he started running out of places to bury bodies, so he started
stacking,
putting 2 in one grave.
Yeah, pancakes.
Stacking.
Pancake style.
And this is when he also started killing 2 people in one day. A lot. In order to just, get a bigger bar.
Gacy's next victim was Kenneth Parker, who was 16. He was last seen on October 24th of 1976. He and a friend, Michael Marino, were at an arcade in the Uptown area, and they were last seen on the corner of Clark and Diversey. And Kenneth was strangled to death and was found buried in the crawl space. And for several years, the body that they found buried on top of Kenneth, they thought was this Michael Marino kid. And due to dental records, they proved that it was him. But his mother never believed that the body identified was her son. And then finally, after being told that she could have the body exhumed in 2015, after the remains were thought to be Michael, they were definitively proven through new dental records that it was not him. So it was another unidentified body, she still doesn't know what happened to her. She doesn't know what happened, so he could technically still be out there. He would be in his 60s, but he'd still be out there.
Yeah. All right, so next was William Bundy. Another William.
Another William.
Another Bundy.
And a Bundy.
He was 19 years old, and he was a PDM employee. He was never seen again after telling his family that he was going to a party for the night. He was also strangled. This is when John started using, the ropes.
Oh, the garrote.
Yeah.
And the rack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, his favorite way to kill people.
He, little known fact, was inspired by Dean Corll. Have you heard of him? The Candyman?
Yeah.
He had a rack. He was disgusting. He had a trailer in the middle of the desert.
He was really fucked up.
And he tortured. We'll do him someday.
Yeah.
But
not today.
Not today. But yeah, it's fucked up that Gacy was.
So what's weird, he was buried directly under Gacy's bedroom.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so bonkers that all of yours are the ones that work in the crawl
it's still
space.
The crawl space, but located in the crawl space directly under his bed.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I forgot how crawl spaces worked.
Right.
I forgot that they were spaces under where your house is.
So then in between this and the next kill, he abducted Robert Donnelly. He was 19 years old. He was a student at the time, and he held him at gunpoint from a bus stop in Chicago. And this was on December 30th of 1977. Gacy took Robert back to his home, and he raped him and tortured him. He also was constantly dunking him in a bathtub full of water over and over until he would pass out. Later during the trial, which we'll talk obviously more extensively about next episode, Robert said, because he got away, that at one point the torture was so bad that he literally said to John, please kill me.
Yeah, I cried.
If you're going to kill me, just kill me.
Yeah.
And John was famously quoted saying, I'm getting around to it.
Ew.
However, a few hours later, after more torture and rape, John drove Robert back to his place of work and let him go.
Yeah. That's why,
Yeah, it's really random. Why him?
Why him?
Because he worked for him, maybe? No, because he didn't.
Exactly.
He was a runaway.
Yeah. And
some of his place of work, he dropped him off at where he worked? That's weird.
Well, he probably dropped him back to one of the locations where they were working at. But no, he because Michael Rossi, some of these other guys, they worked for him and lived with him sometimes.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't, he didn't kill them. I don't know why.
So later when Robert reported the assault, John, when confronted by the police, claimed that they were role-playing and that Robert was just being John's sex slave and that everything had been consensual, and the police believed him.
Oh, of course, because it was the 80s.
Yeah.
It was
and they didn't. They were like, "Ooh,
sorry.
okay, I don't want to talk about it." That's
yeah, they're
awkward.
like, "Ooh, yeah." They know. They'd all just seen that movie Cruising or Cruise.
I mean, these were the cruising years, though.
No,
that's what John called this 1977 to.
Yeah, well, that was like the colloquial term for like men going and searching for
more men,
gay, like boys,
yeah.
like young male sex workers, which John would go to Cabrini Green a lot and he would go to this place called Bughouse Square, and to get some of his victims. It's really fucked up, and fuck Chicago at this time for being
fuck Chicago at all times. Just kidding.
No, yeah. I mean, you heard my story about earlier, right? No, the judge fucking. I will remember his head.
I'm glad you had a good judge experience there, because I did not.
Well, you went to a different place. I went to the fucking Daily Center. You went to a strip mall. No, you didn't.
No.
Oh.
We're talking about different things. Just keep going.
So, anywhoozle, after William Bundy was the murder of Gregory Godzik, he was 17. He was last seen on December 12th. Gregory lived and went to Taft High School. He did not live at Taft High School.
Right.
But he lived in the area near Gacy's home, and he was very popular with the ladies. And like most boys his age, he wanted to make his own money, and he wanted to buy a car. Even though he was only 110 pounds, he worked himself to the bone. He wanted to impress Gacy and make more and more money so he could get more jobs, and so that he could get a really nice car. He was dating this girl named Judy, and on the date of his disappearance, he dropped her home around 12:30 a.m., but he never made it home. Greg's family called Judy and told her that Greg had never come home, and Judy told them that she and Greg had been having relationship problems, but they were all patched up and they were closer than ever, and he would have told her if he was planning on leaving town.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah. Also, the Monday after Greg went missing, his car was found in Niles, Illinois, which in relation is maybe 20 minutes away from where the body was. Not even. I'm sorry. Maybe with traffic nowadays. But Mrs. Godzik knows that her son wouldn't have run away, especially without his car, and because he also had 3 days work, or 3 days worth of pay pending, and so she was like, "Oh, I'll call Gacy," and so she called and asked him if Greg had ever come by to pick up his checks, but Gacy told her that a few days after his disappearance, of course, Greg called and left a message on Gacy's machine saying that he was going to come in the next day around noon, but never showed up. Mrs. Godzik asked if she could hear the tape, but Gacy said that he erased it already.
Oops, I deleted it.
Yeah. Also already, he had killed Greg and buried him in one of the trenches in the crawl space that Greg had made himself.
Wow, yep.
Greg had unknowingly dug his own grave.
Yeah.
I gave myself the chills.
Fuck.
So
next, the 13th kill, which took place on January 20th of 1977, was John Sink. Sink was merely an acquaintance of John Butkovich and Gregory Godzik, and he had met John through them, and John basically lured him to his house pretending to be interested in buying Sink's car, which was a Plymouth Satellite. We don't know how he was killed, but, probably the same kind of deal. He was buried directly above Godzik's body, also in the crawl space. And he had a ring. It was his class ring, you know? And it had his initials on it. And John actually kept it in his bedroom.
Oh.
And then
sick fuck.
Later, John ended up selling his car to Michael Rossi, which we will also get more into.
Yes. In
the next episode.
We will get to that. Also, I had been meaning to mention some of these, but after sink, there were some unidentified bodies. And this is where you are like, hey, did he have a cooling off period? But it was like, no, because in 1977, like the summer, he killed 3 other boys.
He didn't cool off at all.
John Wayne Gacy didn't know how to cool off. Also, in between Rick Johnston and Kenneth Parker, like 3 other bodies who are still considered identified. These were all found in the crawl space.
Yeah. So the next kill was Matthew Bowman on July 5th, 1977. He was from Crystal Lake, Illinois, which we know because our dad works there.
Yep.
And his body was also found in the crawl space. Not a ton of information.
Yep. John probably didn't even know his name.
Probably not.
So, Robert Gilroy was the son of a Chicago police sergeant. On September 5th, he was supposed to meet a friend at the bus stop to go on a trip, but he never showed up at the bus stop. Although he had no ties to Gacy, Gacy would often put up flyers and hang out in a local grocery store in the neighborhood where Robert lived and would offer, jobs. And Mr. Gilroy mentioned, after Robert had gone missing, he had mentioned that Robert said that he may have gotten a new job. So there possibly could have been Gacy. 2 weeks after not hearing from his son, Mr. Gilroy yeah filed an official missing persons report. I don't know why he waited so long as a police officer, but I mean, him and his cop friends went out looking for him.
I think at this time period, a lot of people, when they went missing, it was just like people running off and falling in love.
Maybe,
that
yeah.
happened a lot, Well, I mean, it still does, but it's just less. It's not easy to run away nowadays.
Well, also,
because of all the technology
it also seems that the police at that point thought that all boys that ran away were runaways, so he obviously was like, oh, my boy's a runaway.
Yeah,
maybe.
True.
I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
The next victim is John Prestige, who was 20 years old and went missing on March 15th of 1977. He was from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and he was visiting Chicago. His friends and mother both warned him to be very careful out at night because he was very naive and dangerously trusting of others. John traveled a lot. He would go lots of places, sometimes hitchhiking, but he always remembered to call his family to let them know where he was and what he was up to. The day before he went missing, he called his mom to tell her that on the 16th he had an interview with a special school that had a nursing program just for men. But he was staying at his uncle's friend's apartment, and he lived near Boys Town, and one night he decided to go out, hit some bars that Gacy was known to frequent, and was never seen again. He brought John Gacy brought Prestige home, and killed Prestige and buried him in a grave in the crawl space that would eventually be stacked with bodies. John's mom got worried when she didn't hear from her son for a few days because she was expecting him, she was expecting a call for him to be to tell her how the interview went. John's parents contacted the Cook County Police Department and filed a missing persons report that never went anywhere other than a stack of thousands of other missing persons reports.
See, I don't understand why they say that the last kid was the only one who had family and that's why he was found, because it seems like most of these kids have moms who really were missing them and are where are they, and families and all this stuff, so I don't get why they
and especially with the Godzicks, it seemed they fucking called the police every single day for 2 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. So next, John Mowry was a Marine. He disappeared September 25th, 1977. His remains were found in the crawl space, and he was also strangled to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being strangled to death sounds like, I don't know, the worst.
Absolutely the worst.
Russell Nelson. He was one of Gacy's oldest victims. He was 21. He was studying architecture at college up in Minnesota, and he came down to Chicago with a friend to hit up some of the local bars. And now we get to our first Gacy conspiracy theory, that he had accomplices.
Right.
We've mentioned a couple times that some of his victims have had cloth shoved down their throats. And Gacy, we know, to strangle, but how the fuck... I mean, maybe he put it... maybe they're screaming, and he, shoved it down their throats.
Rips their underwear off them?
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. Some people are very strong.
Yeah, he was gross and strong.
But you think that there was someone else?
Yeah, and according to Rignall, another man had been in the room while he was being raped.
Oh.
But I mean, I don't know. Who's to say? That kid was so fucked up. Like, he was, like, so chloroformed out. But at the same time...
It could have been another kill. Maybe that was one of the nights that he was going to kill 2 people.
Yeah,
you know?
maybe
it's one of the unidentified.
Exactly. And I'm not, like, dismissing what Jeff said, obviously.
Right.
But, you know. Also, there were the ways Gilroy and Nelson were killed. So that other kill I had, like I said, Gacy usually strangled, and they did it with a cloth.
Yeah. The cloth is a big, like... thing that he always did.
Yeah,
was like choking them to death with it.
And
it's easier to have someone suffocate on something than to actually like choke them with your hands.
Or it's probably easier to do both. I don't know. I'm not a murderer. I'm glad I don't know. I'm glad neither of us know.
Me too.
Yeah. So like I said, this becomes kind of a common thing, and he admits to killing some of these other people who also have cloth down their throats. Spoiler alert. But they also think it is very unlikely for Nelson to be taken without one of his friends noticing. But some people think that Russell's friend was an accomplice because Russell's dad and brother came down to look for him after he went missing. Yeah. And the friend told them about some jobs that Gacy had, and he tried getting his brother to work for him.
Yeah.
The attorney, though, Gacy's defense attorney, Amarante, who we will get back to, obviously.
Next episode.
He thinks that it would have been impossible that Gacy had any help because he was so narcissistic.
Yeah, he wouldn't want...
He confessed to everything, and he would have pulled, like, I had an accomplice, I'll tell you who they are if you don't kill me, because, you know, he didn't want to be executed. If you have that kind of information on someone, you know, like...
So, yeah, I don't think he did.
No, I think he 100% didn't. He obviously liked strangling people, but, he did stab someone.
Yeah.
But,
he didn't like it as much. He probably didn't want, like, the cleanup.
Exactly.
It's a lot of blood.
And that maybe, like, I don't know. Yeah, who fucking even knows?
Who knows?
And he doesn't even know. He said he would wake up and there would be, like, he would just be out of it and there'd be, like, a boy's body in his living room.
Yeah.
Like, that's so... How fucked up is that?
It was, like, same thing with Dahmer, though, because he'd be so fucked up drunk.
I know.
Yeah.
It's really fucked up.
It's weird to, like, blackout murder someone. Like...
it's almost like
anyone can relate? No one?
Yeah, anybody? No one?
I can't.
Please don't. Don't tell us. We don't condone.
Nope.
We don't condone.
No condoning here.
Yeah. So, Morgan's gonna continue on?
So, the next victim was Robert Winch. He died in November 10th of 1977, as all of these. He was from Kalamazoo. He went to school there, and he was murdered and stuffed in the crawl space.
Yeah. Sadly, we do not know a lot about Robert Winch because John Gacy...
You with your John Wacy's.
That's only the second time now.
No, but I feel like you do.
Oh, it's going to happen 1,000 times more. Okay. I made it the whole first episode without doing it, and now that's all I'm going to say.
That. Okay.
I do.
So John Wacy.
No, but like I was saying, he was such a fucking piece of shit. Like, he didn't even know the names of some of his fucking victims. So, like, there's very little that we can go by.
Yeah.
And, like, some of these boys were, you know, sex workers.
Right.
It is me next. Our next victim, the next victim of Gacy, that is, was Tommy Bowling. Another one we don't know a whole lot about, but he was also another one of Gacy's older victims, and he even had a wife.
Was he 20?
Maybe he was the one who was 21, and I think my other guy was 20. But they were, like, the older ones, and that's why they always say, like, the killer of men and boys.
Because there was a couple that were 21 years old. That's a man.
That's a man. But I would
say after 18 you are, so...
Yeah, 15, that's a boy.
That's
14,
a boy.
that's a boy.
Yeah.
That's a baby. So, let's see. But he was actually married. He had a wife named Jolie, and he had a little boy named Tommy.
Oh.
He disappeared after leaving a bar and was never seen again until police uncovered his remains in a grave that he shared with your last victim, Robert Winch.
Yep.
He was also murdered November 18th, the same day as the Jonestown Massacre.
Whoa.
Doing.
Okay, so next, David Talsma. He was also a Marine. a lot of these Marines are probably, like, in these states, like, doing stuff, and they just get picked up from bus stations.
We live close to lots of places like that.
Exactly. Like,
it's
a lot
Chicago.
Of, like,
it's a hub.
Yeah, it's a hub. So, he was going to a rock concert in Hammond, Illinois, but was never seen again until his body was discovered in the crawl space. The last thing his mother, like, talked to him about was that he was going to the concert. Yeah.
Did they...
See, more family that, like, talk to their,
See?
you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why they always harp on the fact that the last kid was the only one, you know?
I mean...
I know we keep, like, bringing that up.
I know, but, I mean, Mrs. Peast was literally there when Gacy took her son.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, it was... and it's like he did it in broad daylight, kind of a thing.
Yeah, he was just totally lost.
Like, he was, like, you know, he was being a dum-dum at that point. Because he was a dum-dum. So... Next on the list is William Kindred. On February 16th, 1978, Mary Jo Pauls had her last conversation with her fiancé, William. Every day for a year, he'd, like, call her at least once, like, every single day. And he would always drive and see her. He was a good fiancé. That night he went out with his friends to Chicago, frequented by street people, which is the most offensive way to say, like, that's a creepy bar.
Yeah. Street people.
Yeah. Mary Jo didn't hear from William that night, or the next day, and he had promised to call her and hadn't. And, like I said, he never fucking missed a call. She went to his apartment, and all of his belongings were there, so she told the police he was missing. And they, of course, fucking did nothing.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, she was his fiancé.
Right. They didn't look into it at all.
Nope. Because of where he was found. Because he was in fucking Chicago, in an area where, you know.
Yeah.
It so fucking makes me really mad.
So his body was not in the crawl space?
No, his body wasn't found until the crawl space was being excavated of bodies. So once it started,
he was in there. Oh, okay.
But he was the last person to be buried in the crawl space.
Yes. Because this is when he moves on to
water.
So Frank Landing in. He was 19 years old. The last time Frank saw his father, they were fighting because he had just gotten bailed out by his dad of jail because he was arrested for assault and battery for beating up his girlfriend. So he wasn't, like, the best guy.
That's not cool, Frank.
Not cool.
But
also,
it doesn't justify your
everyone
death.
called Frank Dale.
Which is cool. Everyone calls our granddad Dale, and that's not his first name.
And that's my middle name, too.
Ah.
So Dale was most likely picked up while Gacy was cruising, because he was picked up in Uptown, a.k.a. here, where we live.
A.k.a. literally where Morgan and I are sitting right now. Like, a lot of this is speculation, but I mean, it's... but I think it's fair to say that's what is happening.
Yeah, because he was known to, like, take money for, like, sex and stuff. Like, gifts and money for sex.
Yeah, he was, like, straight for pay. Straight for pay.
Yeah.
Gay for pay? Sorry.
I guess. Or just, like, kind of bi.
He's probably bi.
Yeah, his body was found in the Des Plaines River he
was found,
Channahon.
I think, in... Oh, yeah. That's how you pronounce it?
Channahon, Illinois, yeah.
That's really close to us.
Really close to our hometown.
Yeah, it got found at one of the... Okay, so this is why you don't fucking... Well, don't kill anybody anyways.
Right.
But, okay, if you're going to just... How do I word this? It is not good to dispose of anything you want to get rid of in a river because of locks and dams.
So they'll be found pretty quick.
Yeah, a body's gonna get to one of those spots and
stay there.
They're gonna notice.
Yeah.
Like you,
especially when people are being looked for because all these boys are disappearing.
Yeah, and it might be hard to relate. Familiar with locks and dams because
we lived in middle of two different rivers.
Yeah, we live in a city with two rivers, and I think every single year that I went to school in Ottawa, Illinois, we had a field trip to one of the locks and dams.
Yeah.
Yet, still kind of don't know how it works. Don't know how the lock part works. I know the dam keeps the water out. Does the lock part, like, flow it out?
I honestly don't know, man. Anyone who's like really knowledgeable with locks and dams, hit us up.
Yeah.
I like how we just said we are knowledgeable, and then we were like, actually, we're not.
No, I flat out said, like, I'm not fucking listening.
Right.
I'm like, I was looking at birds.
Same. So, same MO. He had his underwear shoved down his throat, and he suffocated to death.
Yeah. So, definitely still fucking John Wayne Gacy, because this is when he would start going down to fucking... He would drive all the way down. So, let me put this in perspective. He drove probably about an hour and a half to dispose of these bodies.
Yeah.
He drove...
Because he probably did it in the middle of the night where there wasn't a lot of traffic.
Yeah. He lived by O'Hare Airport, if you've ever been by there.
He would have taken
and he
the
would
trip
taken
we
the
took today. Literally.
I was literally...
50 Lakeshore to 55 to 80.
Yeah, literally the trip that we took was Robert Peast's last trip. Yep.
His remains.
No.
He was killed.
Well, no. Like where he when we get to it, but like
isn't that where we're going now?
No, we gotta go some other places first.
Oh,
I'm
right.
sorry. But yeah. Rivers are crazy and locks and dams are like whatever.
Yeah, the ocean's a better bet. Like the middle of the ocean.
No, we don't condone.
We've all seen Dexter.
We have seen Dexter.
But he gets found out.
Exactly. So just don't
be the Bay Harbor Butcher, you guys.
Don't fucking kill people.
Don't be BBB.
Morgan.
Morgan.
Okay, so I believe it is you, or is it
No,
me?
I just did Frank.
I'm sorry.
AKA Dale.
I'm sorry, it's late, aka it's 8:09. So the next victim is Timothy O'Rourke, who is 20 years old. He was kidnapped by Gacy on the corner of Lawrence and Dover.
Whoa!
2 blocks from where Morgan and I are currently sitting.
Yeah, literally.
Literally on my fucking block. That was the book. I don't know if I talked about this before, but I literally bought the book online.
Literally.
I'm sorry, I'm a dick.
No,
his body was the first one, actually, to be found in the river. After he ran out of room in the crawl space, Gacy, that is.
Oh, that smell.
Oh, God.
What that house smelled like. Because he didn't try to, break their bodies down the way, Dahmer did.
No, yeah, he did. Well, he tried using lime.
Well, he used just lime?
I'm wrong. You're right. It's lye. It's lye.
Yeah.
Lime is
But
poisonous.
he wasn't even, doing it well.
Clearly not, if everyone could fucking smell it.
Yeah, it was the talk around the town that, John Wayne Gacy's house smelled bad.
Yeah, in fact...
And everyone knew about it.
Maybe once I get... we'll get back to Timothy O'Rourke, because towards the end of 1997, Carol and John briefly dated, even though they were divorced.
Right.
But whenever they tried being intimate sexually, John's dick was as limp as Harry Potter's arm in the Chamber of Secrets when Gilderoy Lockhart tries saving it.
No, yeah, for surezies, I actually just mastered Skelly Grow in one of my classes.
Hell yeah, bitch! Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah! The last day that they spent together romantically was on Memorial Day in 1978. And on the way to Carol's home, they stopped by Gacy's house, and he showed her some renovations he'd made because she had been there in a while.
And she's like, "What the fuck is that smell?"
Yeah.
What is also what the name of this episode could be called.
What the fuck is that smell? Yeah, that's
what is that smell?
What the fuck is that smell, John?
Yuck.
So yeah, he was showing her the kitchen, and she's like, "It's a very nice kitchen, John, but that foul odor that used to come from the front of the house smell like it's coming out of the sink."
It's because there are people buried in the kitchen.
He's like, "Yeah,
under the kitchen floorboards."
He's like, "So you know the bodies that were decomposing in the front of our house?
Those are now decomposed.
Those are now just ashes. Those are just bones and dust.
Bye-byes.
You're smelling. That's so disgusting.
You're smelling the new freshies.
That's disgusting.
You're smelling Frank. You're smelling fucking John.
Stop.
You're smelling Matthew. You're smelling a couple Williams.
You're smelling like 15 Johns. I'm sorry.
So
back to Timothy O'Rourke.
Yeah.
So yeah, he drove down I-55, which if you drive if you're going down south to Champaign, that area.
College.
Yep, college.
You
know, college.
There's one there.
There's one there. So, like I said, he would throw them in the Des Plaines River, which flows into the Illinois River.
Ew. Which we have both swam in.
Oh, yeah.
Which is gross.
Yeah, it's gross. Don't go in the fucking river, dudes. You'll die.
There's a lot of Asian carp.
Oh my god, they're like one of the most... They'll just come out and...
You'd think they would eat bodies.
No.
They're crazy.
No, that's not their MO. Their MO
is jumping and scaring people.
No, slapping people in the faces and
you guys, if you want to see something crazy, Google or YouTube Asian carp fish jumping, and there'll be videos from this area, this river that we're talking about, where these bodies were found of crazy ass... I think they're called Asian carp fish.
No, yeah, they're Asian carps.
And they just do these weird jumpy jumps, you guys.
Yeah,
We've had one jump in our boat before, and it is scary.
Oh, it's always terrible when one of those Asian carps gets in your boat.
Himself when he did it, so it was kind of sad.
Oh,
right,
you have sympathy for the
Asian carp? Yeah, I feel bad. It seemed painful.
Aw. So Timothy wasn't identified until 2 years later when a friend of Timothy's dad said he was looking at a news article saying that one of the victims was found in the river and that they had a tattoo that said Tim Lee, which was a tattoo that Timothy had because Timothy was a huge Bruce Lee fan.
Cute.
These bodies are being found in fucking Morris, Illinois, at the Dresden Morris Lock and Dams.
That's where
I went there.
Oh, okay.
It was fucking terrifying.
I believe it.
It was so
Locks
scary.
and dams aren't like cute.
Well, no, it was not like the other locks and dams. It's not like the ones we went to in grade school. There were legit.
I don't think I did that. That was just you.
You didn't go to the locks and dams like at.
It is not a memory that's standing.
You never
out
went
in
to
my
Starved
brain.
Rock Locks and Dams.
Of course, I've gone to Starved Rock, but I don't think I've gone to the Locks and Dams.
Did you ever go to Dayton Locks and Dams?
No, I don't think so.
You never had to go.
Take me there sometime.
Did you? You never had to go to the Locks and Dams? Okay.
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm sorry. This episode is just going to be called Locks and Dams.
Seriously.
But yeah, getting back to Locks and Dams. No, you continue. But yeah, so. What I was saying was I went there and it was unlike anything because there were a bunch of fucking fences and signs that said government property, like please stay out, and I'd never seen signs. I'd never seen signs that were like, if you go past this point, you're breaking a fucking federal crime.
Damn.
Yeah, I was
I don't
scared.
think I have either.
I took pictures and Tuesday was with me, so Tuesday's fucking complicit if I get in trouble.
Okay.
Because you know it was. I
will make sure she gets bailed out before you.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm gonna post the pictures, don't worry. It's scary.
So, the second to last kill, like you were saying, was found in the Morris area.
It was at the Morris
Des Plaines.
Yeah, because their bodies
river.
would get stuck in the fucking locks and dams.
Yeah. And this was December 8th, so this was winter time, so it was probably fucking freezing.
That's why there was
It's Chicago, you guys.
Yeah, that's why there was such a long period. Like, they had to wait a really long time.
So that's when his body was found.
Yeah.
He disappeared on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they had to take a long time.
78.
Yeah, that fucking sucks, because it's so cold.
I know. He was last seen having dinner with his family. His body was found on the 28th, actually. He wasn't found until the 28th.
Fuck.
And he had been suffocated again with his own underwear. Yuck. They were lodged so far down his throat, and it was completely plugging up his airway, and he choked on his own vomit. That's how he drowned to death.
Oh, God, that's the worst.
Yeah, I know.
Poor kid. Poor kid.
Yeah. Sorry, I know it's a real bummer, man.
I mean, this is all a bummer.
It's like really just all a humongous
Should we just go back to talking about locks and dams?
I guess. No. But James was 20 years old.
Poor kid.
Which is, again, one of the older ones, though.
Yeah. So now we get to Gacy's final victim, the one who put the nail in his coffin.
Yeah.
Robert was working at Neeson's Pharmacy in Des Plaines, Illinois, when he met John Wayne Gacy. I went there. It is now, I don't know if I should be sharing this or not, but it's a fucking daycare.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Where he took his last, and wasn't he only like 15 years old?
Yeah, he was 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was a baby.
Yeah, he was a baby. Gacy went into the store to take some measurements for a future construction job that he was going to be working on. And when he got home, he realized that he'd forgotten something at the store, so he had to go all the way back. So, if he hadn't fucking forgotten what he forgot, and... Oh, it's fucking crazy, those little tiny things like that.
That can lead to...
You
might have not got caught for a while, maybe. Who knows? Maybe he would have not been so dumb with his next killer, who knows? Maybe he would have, because he was kind of spiraling.
He's dumb when you listen to him talk. He talks. It's like we'll get into it more into the next episode. I mean, he also has a mental issues, but like, I mean, it's ridiculous. So, anyhoozle, Gacy was really good friends with the owners, so they were like shooting the shit, and Robert overheard Gacy say that he paid his employees $5 an hour, and Peace was about to turn 16, and he had his eye on a Jeep, and he had literally just asked his boss that night if
a lot of these boys were trying to get cars.
Yeah, because they were all around that age. Yeah. And he was only he asked his boss for a raise, and the boss said no. He was only making $2.50 an hour, so like
just nothing.
It's no, back then $5 an hour would have been I mean, that's like if you went from having $20 an hour to $40 an hour.
Yeah, I know. Woo-hoo-hoo, yes.
I mean, actually, it's not because of exponential growth, but like whatever. Anyhoozle. So Robert's parents would drive him to work and pick him up from work, and his mother went to the store around 9:30, and it was her birthday this day.
Oh, that's so fucked up.
And they had like the cake and everything ready, and like they were gonna celebrate. After...
It's really fucked up that it happens a lot in these stories where it's like someone's birthday and their kid doesn't ever come home.
Yeah, that's fucked up. It's like how you broke your arm on Mom's birthday.
It's not quite as bad.
Well, no, but I mean just like like bad things happening on days that
are supposed to be like special and fun.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, with Robert Peace's case, we know the most about because
his mom was there.
His mom was literally there when he was taken, and
was she shopping there?
She was waiting for him.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll get to that in one sec. But I guess while she was driving him there, he was like, "Hey, maybe like." Because, like, he was going to ask his boss for a raise, and he's like, if I get that raise, like, I'll be able to, like, get the car, and so you won't have to take me to work. Oh. And she said, I didn't mind. She said, I don't mind taking you.
Of course.
Oh, when reading about Robert Peace case.
Is hard.
It's really fucking sad. Yeah. It's really sad. Yeah. Whew. Wow. I didn't realize that was going to
hit you so hard.
I mean, it did when I obviously read it the first time, but oh boy. So, Gacy approached Robert in the alley behind the pharmacy where Robert had come out to throw out some garbage. He had been wearing a blue parka.
Mm-hmm. It was winter times. Right?
Yeah.
It was like January or February?
It was December 11th, so yeah.
Oh, dang. Okay.
It was, fucking... And they talked about it a lot in what I was... in a couple of the different accounts of the story that I was reading, that it was like a fucking shitty... icy, coldy, grossy night out. Like
fucking Sagittarius season, honey, which is you and I.
You and I. Okay, so he told Robert that he had seen what a good worker he was, and he wanted Robert to come work for him.
He meant hot ass.
Yeah, because he's a fucking disgusting grosso.
Yeah,
gross. It's hard not to like talk about him like only feeling hatred when it comes to this one that I've heard so many, and then that's why, I mean, not that the other ones weren't as bad, because that's why they're just as bad, but like this just makes me realize that all of these boys had to go through it's just really bad. So,
and what all their families had to go through.
Yeah, it's the worst thing. Yeah. So Gacy was like, I think you'll be a good fit, but you need to come back to my house to sign some paperwork. And Robert was like, he's like, my mom's inside, it's her birthday. I really
can't do that right now. I would just be like, no.
And he's like, I don't. But, of course, John was being manipulative. And he's like, wouldn't the best present for your mom be for you to come home with a great job where you're making extra money? Yeah.
I would have been like, I got you tomorrow, bro. I know. That's fucked up, man.
Yeah.
He's a piece of shit.
I mean, he was just that manipulative, and he just kept going and going. It's like I said, and, he just kept protesting, and eventually...
So did people hear this?
No one... Oh, I just got crazy chills when you said that. I mean, there were the people in the store who knew that he was there.
Well, how do we know he said all of this stuff?
His confessions.
Oh, okay.
Eventually, Robert was convinced to get into Gacy's truck, and they drove off to Gacy's home. He performed the handcuff trick for Robert, and he eventually strangled him to death with a homemade garrote he made from a rope and 2 hammers.
Ugh, yeah, is this his only garrote, or did he do it one other time?
I mean, it was like the rope thing.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, it's really disgusting because he would
That's
come.
how John Bonet was killed.
Yeah, with 2 paintbrushes
Mm-hmm.
that were. Let's not get down that rabbit hole.
Not right now.
Oh boy. So, John also made the trek from Chicago down 55, I-55, and you go past I-80,
Mm-hmm.
and where there's like a bridge going over the Des Moines River, or Des Moines, or wait,
Des Plaines.
Des Plaines. I think you can see how I could get those two confused.
Sure. Des Moines is Iowa, though.
I know, they're the other way. And his body was also found, it was in the actual, like, lock mechanism, which is really fucked up. Unlike the previous boys, Robert Peace's disappearance was immediately investigated, and an APB was put out for his disappearance within hours of his family filing, because when they went, and the detective, his last name's Kozenchuk, he's a big part, we'll talk about him.
Yeah, a lot
more later. He's a fucking baller.
Yeah.
He's like, I just fucking knew. He's like, they knew. He knew.
The mom
knew. And plus, there was so many witnesses.
So many witnesses. He fucked up on this one.
Oh, yeah. He fucked up so big time. And he was just going crazy. Mm-hmm. He was drinking way too much. Rampage.
That's what always gets them.
Yep. It's almost like being a serial killer is a bad idea.
It's almost like you shouldn't do it, or you're probably going to be put to fucking death.
Yeah. And after reading the story of Robert Peace, yeah, I would have voted for him to die too.
Yeah, it's really sad.
After hearing those details,
his family speaks in the...
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it, obviously, but I don't know, man. Prosecution kind of nailed it. Mm-hmm. So, that is the end of this episode.
Yeah. How'd you guys like it? You think it was cool?
Wasn't it sad
as a review.
Fuck? Wasn't it super sad, y'all?
Yeah, it's really a bummer, but did we make it fun?
Isn't that what this is all about? Making murder fun?
Making murder fun again.
The first step of murder is being yourself.
Yeah. And the second step of murder is don't talk about Fight Club.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
All right, you guys. So find us on Instagram.
Edward Norton. If you're listening, please call me. I know you're trying to plug us, but I'm also trying to get Edward Norton to, I mean, we don't know who listens to this.
Hopefully just Edward Norton.
Yeah, I don't...
Just Eddie Nortz.
Edward Norton is the only person who listens to our podcast.
Oh my god, that'd be fine.
He has 10 bajillion VPNs. Okay. So yeah, Morgan, go on with those plugs.
So Instagram is at the Sisters Grimm Podcast. Twitter is Sisters Grimm Pod, though I have not been logged into Twitter for months.
Yeah, I got a new phone. Sorry,
new
y'all.
phone. Who dis? We don't know the passwords, you guys. It sucks.
I forgot.
But Facebook, we always see your guys' posts, and we love it. We love when you tag us in things and share stuff with us. And
and I posted pictures.
Leave nice messages and reviews.
Yeah, we love all of you so much.
Holly's posted a lot of photos of the areas where a lot of this John Wayne Gacy stuff took place.
Every single...
a lot of the kills.
Yeah.
And obviously the bodies.
Yeah.
Space.
Yeah. Crime scene investigation photos are really gross. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
especially in this case.
I went to obviously the Neeson's pharmacy. I went to
his home where all the bodies were excavated from the...
Yeah, John Wayne Gacy's home. If you and I go there, that will be the third fucking time I will have been to... Like, so maybe honestly...
let's not. I'm fine. I'm good.
Good, okay. Because if I never...
I'll go some other time.
If I never am in that neighborhood again, I will fucking...
Be cool with it?
Be totally fine with it.
That's how I feel about Jeffrey Dahmer's neighborhood.
Yeah,
I don't ever want to go back.
The second time I went there,
it's
I
crazy
got
that we
the same
have
feeling.
Gone, but...
It's just really gross and...
yucky.
I don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone who lives in that neighborhood, and I know that they probably fucking hate that they're associated with him. Yeah. I completely understand. But I'm a
It
gross
just made
pervert.
us feel a little uncomfortable. It's just whatever.
So, goodbye.
Bye, y'all. Sisters Grimm out.
Sisters Grimm out.